You know, have you ever felt just completely overwhelmed by health information?
Oh, absolutely.
There's so much conflicting advice out there. Everyone's searching for I guess, the easiest way to get healthier. It feels like drowning sometimes.
It really does.
Well, today our deep dive is all about trying to cut through some of that noise.
Yeah.
Our mission really is to give you a bit of a shortcut to understand the fundamental ways your body works, from burning fat to how your brain functions. And we'll uncover some pretty surprising connections along the way.
Exactly. The goal is to help you understand how your body truly operates and what it genuinely needs to, well, to thrive.
Okay.
And for this deep dive, we've looked at insights from a diverse range of voices. We're talking health champions, doctors, and they all seem to focus on this crucial theme,
Mm.
how our, modern lifestyle is impacting our ancient biology. It's about getting back to basics, really. The principles our bodies were actually designed for.
Okay, let's unpack that then. Because many of us, myself included sometimes, we think getting fat is just, eating too much fat or simply too many calories overall.
Right, the standard view.
But our sources, they really challenge that idea, don't they?
They do. It's quite insightful, actually. The whole fat storage thing is way
Right.
more nuanced than just calories in, calories out.
Yeah.
Your body has this incredibly efficient system for handling excess energy, and that's energy from any kind of food, for storage.
Okay.
Think about it like this. You drink say, 1,000-calorie milkshake. Big one.
Whoa, okay.
Now, if in the next couple of hours, you only burn maybe 200, 300 calories, what happens to the
It
rest?
gets stored.
Exactly. The other 700, 800 calories, tucked away for later.
That's a great visual, and it highlights how our bodies have this, well, almost beautiful system for storing excess energy as fat. It's designed for times when food isn't around, right? Like fasting.
Precisely. Fat is just the most effective way our bodies can store energy. It allows us to potentially go for weeks, maybe even months, without food if we had to.
Yeah.
It's a totally natural adaptive system. It's worked for living things forever. The system itself isn't the problem.
So here's where it gets really, really interesting and maybe counterintuitive for a lot of people. One source hammers this point.
Hmm.
You literally cannot store fat. You cannot make fat without a hormone called insulin. It's the fat-storing hormone, full stop. If your body couldn't make insulin, you just couldn't get fat.
Right. The example they use is powerful. Type 1 diabetics, they can't produce insulin.
Yeah.
So even if their blood sugar is sky high from food, they don't gain weight. In fact, they can waste away.
So that leads to the big question then. If insulin is so key to storing fat, is it bad?
And the answer is a definite no. Insulin isn't evil. It's not bad at all. It's absolutely essential for life.
Okay.
The problem comes when it's out of balance. Our, let's face it, unnatural lifestyle, and especially the unnatural foods we eat, processed stuff, tons of sugar, seed oils,
Yeah.
they basically bypass this beautiful natural system. And that leads to what they call metabolic dysregulation,
Dysregulation,
meaning we kind of lose the ability to know when we're truly hungry. We end up eating for all the wrong reasons, often just consuming way too much. One source pretty dramatically calls these processed foods destroyed garbage or non-foods because they offer basically nothing the body needs and they seriously upset our metabolic health.
And if you connect that back to our evolutionary history, it clicks, doesn't it? Our ancestors, Homo sapiens, their DNA is like 99.9% identical to ours.
Right.
But they ate completely different food. Our enzymes are designed for their food, the stuff eaten for hundreds of thousands of years. Anything introduced recently, say the last few 100,000 years, it's basically an experiment on our biology.
It's a stark thought. And what's shocking is that today, something like 60 to 70% of our calories come from this modern processed category.
70%.
Yeah. Foods that, frankly, have nothing our bodies truly need. It's this huge disconnect from our ancestral blueprint, and that's what's driving this widespread dysregulation.
Okay, so if insulin is the key player here, how do we get it back in balance? How do we unlock our body's natural ability to burn fat?
Well, the big theme that emerges is that this dysregulation mostly boils down to two main things: the timing of our food and the type of food we eat.
Timing and type. Okay, let's start with type.
Right. So when you look at food types, it's really all about how they affect insulin. Fat, for instance, barely move the needle. Single digits, maybe like a 2 to 4 unit insulin response.
Very low.
Protein is moderate, double digits, maybe 10 to 20. But carbohydrates, yeah, triple digits. We're talking an insulin response of maybe 100 or more. And this is critical because carbs must be processed first by the body.
Why is that?
Well, high blood sugar is dangerous, so the body prioritizes getting it down. And by stimulating insulin so much,
It blocks fat burning.
exactly, it slams the brakes on fat burning.
That's such a powerful insight. It's like, okay, deal with this sugar first. Fat burning can wait. So understanding insulin isn't just about weight, is it? It's about getting consistent energy, feeling less hungry.
Precisely, because you're tapping into your own stored fuel, not just waiting for the next sugar hit. So yeah, the goal is to reduce those big insulin spikes. That allows your body to become what's called fat adapted.
Fat adapted. Explain that a bit more.
It just means your body remembers or relearns how to use fat for fuel effectively. When your carb intake is consistently low enough, the metabolic pathways, the enzymes needed to burn fat efficiently, they wrap up.
Okay.
And the result, long-lasting, stable energy. Much less hunger, because your body can easily access its own fat stores. So you naturally tend to eat less, and you burn more fat.
Makes sense. Were our ancestors keto all the time then?
Not necessarily strictly ketogenic, no, but they were certainly keto adapted for large parts of our existence, just due to food availability changing with seasons and hunts.
Right.
So things like low-carb, high-fat, or LCHF diets, they can get a lot of satiety, that feeling of fullness, especially if you have insulin resistance. But it's important to say it's not strictly one-size-fits-all. Some people do well with moderate carbs, maybe 70 to 100 grams a day.
Okay, so that's the type of food. What about the timing you mentioned, especially with things like intermittent fasting?
Right, the timing.
Yeah.
So the logical next step is thinking about how often we should eat. Every single time you eat, you spike insulin,
Every time. Even a small snack.
even a small snack. So the logic is pretty simple. Fewer meals mean fewer insulin spikes. That allows your insulin levels to drop back down between eating periods.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to intermittent fasting, or IF, there are some interesting updates for, say, 2025 and beyond. Many people know 168 fasting for 16 hours, eating in an 8-hour window.
Yeah, that's common.
But a key insight now is that maybe 18 hours is the new minimum for really significant metabolic benefits. Something important seems to happen with fat metabolism and gluconeogenesis. That's your body making glucose internally after that 16-hour mark.
18 hours. Okay. And what about burst fasting? I think I saw that mentioned.
Yes. Burst fasting is a newer approach. It involves doing maybe 3 to 5 consecutive 18-hour fasts.
Consecutive days.
Yeah. Then you take 3 to 5 days off. The idea is it keeps your body guessing, prevents metabolic adaptation or slowdown, and allows for recovery.
That's clever. Keeps the body on its toes. I've also heard about varying calories being useful.
Absolutely. Randomizing calories can be a good strategy, especially on those fasting days, within your eating window, of course. Some days you might have, say, 1,500 calories. Other days, maybe depending on your workout or just how you feel, you might go up to 3,000.
Ah, so you don't just lock into one low number.
Exactly. Fluctuating helps keep the body guessing, prevents plateaus.
Yeah.
And for those looking for maybe a more aggressive way to maximize fat burning, skipping dinner can be really effective.
Skipping dinner instead of breakfast.
Yeah, because it means your insulin levels are super low overnight and into the morning. So if you work out in the morning,
You pull more fat from storage.
you got it.
Yeah.
Because there's no recent food energy competing.
Okay, so diet fasting, clearly powerful tools. But our ancestors didn't just eat differently, they moved differently, right? How does movement, maybe intense bursts of activity, tie into this whole insulin and hormone picture?
You're absolutely right. Movement is huge. Our ancestors moved a lot, probably around 30,000 steps a day, mostly low-intensity stuff.
Wow, 30,000. That's a lot more than most of us get.
Oh, yeah. But they also did very brief periods of high-intensity interval training, or HIIT. Short bursts of major stress and adaptation, thinks sprinting after prey, lifting something heavy.
Right, real life demands. So how does exercise fit into the fat burning and muscle building strategy, especially with fasting?
Well, here's one of the really intriguing insights from the sources, a bit of a new perspective on strength training for fat loss. When you're fasting, the most important thing is muscle preservation.
Okay, you don't want to lose muscle while trying to lose fat.
Exactly. So the recommendation is actually to do maybe 30 to 40 minutes of resistance training on your fasting days.
On fasting days. Why?
To stimulate the muscle. Tell your body, hey, we still need this. Then follow that with only about 15 minutes of cardio.
Only 15 minutes.
Yeah. The thinking is cardio is maybe better done on non-fasting days. Because in the short term, it can actually be a bit catabolic, potentially breaking down muscle if you're already in a fasted state for a long time.
Interesting. So prioritize resistance training during the fast to protect muscle.
Right. And for pure muscle growth, there's this cool concept called glycogen supercompensation.
Okay.
If you periodically, say for a couple of weeks, double your training volume.
Double it. That sounds intense.
It is. But it can lead to potentially 23% more muscle growth, mainly through something called sarcoplasmic expansion. Your muscles actually increase the fluid inside the cells. They suck up extra carbohydrates than usual when you refeed.
Ah, so they get physically fuller.
Kind of, yeah. And this gives you sort of internal leverage for strength gains, too. It's pretty fascinating.
Wow, so it's not just about tearing down fibers, but strategically expanding the muscle's fuel tank, in a way. That definitely shifts the usual thinking. Okay, let's pivot to hormones, specifically testosterone. So crucial for energy, mood, metabolism for men and women.
Absolutely critical.
And our sources point out 10 kind of surprising ways we might be lowering it without even realizing.
Yeah, this list is eye-opening. It really highlights what might be silently undermining our hormonal health. Okay, number 1.
Hit me.
Sugar and carbs. Too much drives up insulin, right? We know that. But high insulin leads to less free usable testosterone and more estrogen. It also tanks luteinizing hormone, or LH, which is the signal from your brain to make testosterone.
Okay, so diet is number 1. Makes sense.
2, chronic stress. High cortisol, the stress hormone, literally competes for the same raw materials, cholesterol, DHEA that you need to make testosterone.
Stress steals the building blocks. Got it.
3, poor sleep. This one's huge. Testosterone is mainly made during deep REM sleep. Just 1 week of poor sleep can slash your testosterone levels by potentially 50%.
50% in 1 week.
Yeah, and it lowers LH too. Sleep is non-negotiable. 4, endocrine disruptors. Think plastics, pesticides.
The chemicals in our environment.
Exactly. Things like BPA, phthalates, they mimic hormones, block receptors, and generally interfere with natural testosterone production.
Okay, what's 5?
A low-fat, or even a strict vegan diet. Now, this isn't about ideology, it's about biology. You need cholesterol as the raw material for all steroid hormones, including testosterone.
Right, the building block again.
Plus, you might miss out on key nutrients, often richer in animal products. Zinc, vitamin D, B12, creatine, carnitine. This can potentially reduce testosterone by 10 to 15% for some people.
Okay, 6.
Lack of strength training, especially hitting the big muscle groups, legs, glutes. And doing that high-intensity interval training we mentioned. Even things like cold exposure, ice baths, provide a beneficial challenge that can influence hormones.
Challenge the body.
Yeah.
7.
Too much body fat, particularly visceral fat, the deep belly fat. This messes with an enzyme called aromatase.
Aromatase.
Yeah, it converts testosterone into estrogen. So if you have too much visceral fat, just taking testosterone supplements might actually just end up raising your estrogen levels. You have to address the fat first.
Wow, okay. That's a crucial point. 8.
Overtraining, pushing too hard without enough recovery. We're talking needing 48, maybe even 72 hours of rest after really heavy workouts. Otherwise, muscle breakdown, high cortisol, inflammation, and, reduced testosterone.
Recovery is key. 9.
Excess alcohol. It contributes to fatty liver, which links back to that aromatase imbalance, more testosterone converting to estrogen. Plus, it hurts the liver's ability to clear out excess estrogen and absorb zinc.
Okay, alcohol. And finally, 10.
Vitamin D deficiency. Vitamin D isn't just a vitamin, it acts like a hormone, and it's directly involved in the process of making testosterone.
What a list. So many common things in modern life are on there. What's really insightful is how interconnected they all are. It shows our hormones aren't separate. They reflect everything: sleep, stress, food, movement. It's all holistic.
Absolutely. It all comes back to what one source calls the triad of health.
The triad.
Yeah. Eat better. That's the chemical nutritional side. Yeah. Move better. The structural mechanical needs, exercise. And think better. Emotional well-being, stress reduction. Those 3 pillars are fundamental.
Eat better, move better, think better. Okay, so health is deeply interconnected. The brain's obviously a huge part of this. What about mental well-being and maybe less obvious signs our body's trying to give us?
Yeah, a critical point here is, are we actually listening to those subtle signals? Chronic stress, for instance, we talked about hormones, but it also directly reduces the amount of hydrochloric acid in your stomach.
Stomach acid, why does that matter?
Well, you need strong stomach acid to digest food properly, especially protein, and absorb minerals. So low acid means poor digestion. Simple things like a bit of apple cider vinegar before meals can help, along with, stress management, breathing, meditation, whatever works for you.
Right. And what about eating when you're not hungry? Just bored?
Oh, yeah. Boredom eating happens to everyone. Instead of grabbing a snack that spikes insulin, maybe try coffee, tea, or even a teaspoon of MCT oil. They can provide a little metabolic boost or satiety without disrupting things. This also touches on what one source calls autonomic glitches.
Autonomic glitches, like computer glitches.
Kind of. Things like weird changes in heart rate, digestion issues that come and go.
Yeah.
Often they're subtle signs your nervous system is just overstressed.
Wow. It's amazing how these everyday things cascade. Now, what about those critical clues you mentioned that our face can give us, especially about the thyroid?
This is fascinating. Your face can apparently tell you a lot about your thyroid function, sometimes long before lab tests show anything, or before you get classic symptoms like fatigue or weight gain.
Really? What kind of signs?
Subtle things,
Yeah.
like losing the outer third of your eyebrows, a puffy or swollen face. The medical term is myxedema. Skin changes pale, maybe yellowish, dry, rough. Droopy eyelids, bags under the eyes, even just a dull or slowed facial expression. The thyroid is like the gas pedal for every cell, so when it slows, everything slows.
And it sounds like the standard thyroid test might be missing the mark for some people.
It's a huge frustration for many. Standard tests often just check TSH, thyroid-stimulating hormone. But TSH isn't a thyroid hormone itself. It's a signal from the brain. And it's often not sensitive enough for early issues.
Right.
Plus, here's a key insight. Over 90% of low thyroid function in developed countries is actually autoimmune. It's Hashimoto's thyroiditis.
Autoimmune, so the body's attacking the thyroid.
Exactly. So just replacing the hormone with medication doesn't address the underlying attack. You really need to ask for a fuller panel, at least 5 markers. TSH, yes, but also total T4 and total T3, the actual thyroid hormones, and crucially, 2 antibodies, TPO and TG antibodies. Those tell you if it's autoimmune.
Okay, 5 markers, that's good to know. And there was this other concept mentioned, organotherapy, PMGs. What was that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. Originally called organotherapy, now being researched under names like immunomodulation or peptide bioregulation, it uses protomorphogen extracts, or PMGs.
Okay, what are those?
They're basically highly specific protein extracts from animal organs. The idea is they act as a decoy for the immune system.
A decoy.
Yeah. In autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's, where the immune system is mistakenly attacking the thyroid, these PMGs, specific to the thyroid, might draw the attack towards themselves, the decoys, instead of the actual thyroid tissue. It's meant to calm the autoimmune reaction and support cellular repair. It's giving specific information to the immune system.
That's a completely different way of thinking about autoimmunity, using decoys. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, what about creatine? We think muscles, right? But the sources link it strongly to brain health.
They do.
Yeah.
Creatine isn't just for bodybuilders. It's proving to be a powerful brain support tool. Studies are showing even a single large dose can help support brain function when you're sleep deprived.
How?
It provides more mental reps, better focus, cognitive endurance. Think of it as an energy reserve for the brain, like a backup battery.
Okay.
And this could potentially help with things like depression and anxiety. By providing more mental energy, it might allow you to engage more in therapy or just have the capacity to start carving new neural pathways, breaking out of negative thought cycles.
So it gives you the mental resources to do the work.
Kind of, yeah. The suggestion is maybe 5 to 15 grams on fasting days could benefit both brain and muscle. And get this, your brain is only about 5% of your body mass, right?
Tiny.
But it uses 20 to 25% of your body's total energy.
Wow.
Which totally explains why anxiety and depression can be so physically and mentally exhausting. Your brain is just burning through energy.
That makes so much sense. Okay, so practically speaking, beyond diet and exercise tweaks, what about key supplements to support this whole system, brain, gut, hormones?
Yeah, looking at the big picture, the sources highlight a few key supplemental areas that seem to offer significant support. First, sort of foundational energy and cell health stuff.
Okay.
Electrolytes, absolutely crucial, especially when insulin drops, like during fasting or low-carb diets. Prevents fatigue, dizziness, brain fog. Sodium, potassium, magnesium.
Right, the keto flu helpers.
Exactly. Then vitamin B1, specifically benfotiamine, which is fat-soluble. Good for nervous system issues, those autonomic glitches we mentioned, and helps with stomach acid too.
B1, got it.
And magnesium.
Yeah.
Essential for like 300 enzymes, making ATP your cell energy currency, balancing calcium. It can really help with anxiety, sleep, heart rhythm. Just note, for some people, it could be activating, so if it disrupts sleep, take it in the morning.
Magnesium. Okay, what about more targeted support? Immune, hormones?
Right. Vitamin D3. We mentioned it for testosterone, but it's vital for immunity too. High doses might even help shrink fibroids, interestingly.
E3, okay.
Zinc carnosine. This specific form is excellent for healing the gut lining. Really beneficial if you have things like Crohn's, ulcers, leaky gut.
Zinc carnosine. for the gut.
Colostrum. One source called it magical. Great for immune support, helps the gut lining, stimulates the thymus gland, a key immune organ,
Colostrum. Interesting.
and omega-3s.
Yeah.
From fatty fish, salmon, sardines, or good quality cod liver oil. Reduces inflammation. Crucial for healthy cells everywhere. Just be a little careful with cod liver oil not to overdo it because of high vitamin A and D levels.
Right. Balance is key. Any others? Maybe more advanced ones.
Yeah, a couple more biohacky ones were mentioned. Yohimbine and rawolsine. They are powerful for appetite suppression and helping liberate fat from stubborn stores, but they can be intense. Definitely something to research or discuss with a doctor.
Okay. Use with caution.
Definitely. Also, TMG, or trimethylglycine, can help lower inflammation markers like homocysteine, supports fat burning and muscle building.
TMG.
And finally, an ancient remedy, black seed cumin oil. One source basically said it works on just about everything. Lots of traditional use, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant.
Black seed oil. Wow. Quite the list. And I think there's a quick DIY skincare tip, too. Something simple.
Oh, yeah. An inexpensive but awesome egg-based face mask.
Egg.
Yeah. Use the egg white that tightens the skin. Use the yolk that's packed with nutrients. You can even add some unsweetened yogurt for, like, skin microbiome support. It's a nice way to support skin from the outside while you're doing all the good stuff inside.
Love it. Simple and natural. Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground today. From insulin's real role in fat storage to how modern life messes with ancient biology and how fairly simple shifts in diet, movement, even key nutrients can impact everything: metabolism, hormones, brain health.
It really shows that true health isn't about some quick fix or a magic pill, is it?
Not at all. It's about understanding and actually working with your body's natural design. The interconnectedness is just amazing. Diet, movement, hormones, mental well-being, it's all one system.
Exactly. And a crucial insight that kept coming up was this idea that our bodies respond to natural law. There are principles, mechanisms built in over hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah.
And if we start breaking those rules, well, there are consequences. But the flip side is, when we align our daily choices with that ancient wisdom, that's where profound, lasting health improvements can happen, often in surprising ways.
So the final thought for you listening is maybe to take a moment and reflect. What's one small, consistent step you could take, starting today, to move a little closer to your body's natural balance?
Yeah, whether it's tweaking your food timing, adding some resistance training, prioritizing sleep, or managing stress, you have the tools.
You really do. Consider this your encouragement to start your own deep dive into your personal health.